Accepting what hurts you might be the most powerful way to finally be truly happy. Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and not recognized the person staring back? Because I have. There was a night I won't forget. Rain hammered my window like the world was trying to scream through it. And there I was, on the floor, completely shattered. Not because someone hurt me, but because I had spent years refusing to feel what was already inside me. Pain, grief, regret, loneliness. All of it buried so deep under smiles, distractions, achievements. But that night, it erupted. And what happened next changed my life forever. You're not here by accident. If you're watching this, it means there's a pain inside you that refuses to stay quiet. You've tried everything. Fixing, running, distracting. But what if the very thing you've been running from is the only thing that can finally set you free? This isn't just another spiritual video. This is a doorway. Today, I'll take you into the story of how accepting what hurt me led to something I never expected, true, lasting happiness. We'll face mystical experiences, confront unexplainable truths, and descend into the depths of the soul, where few are willing to go. And if you stay with me till the end, you might just walk away with a new self. Not because I told you who you are, but because you remembered. Let's begin. It all started with a letter. It came in a plain envelope. No return address. The handwriting? Uneven. Almost ancient. On it. Just a few words, to feel it is to free it. I laughed. I thought it was a prank. But something about those words wouldn't let me sleep. That same night, I dreamt of an old man. His eyes were filled with galaxies, like he'd lived 10,000 lives. He didn't say a word, just placed a stone in my hand. When I woke up, the stone was there. I know, it sounds impossible, but it was real, smooth, cold, and etched with one symbol, a spiral. I brought it to spiritual leaders, scientists, even a cryptologist in Istanbul. No one could explain it. But every time I held it, I felt something deep inside me begin to stir. Something ancient, wounded, but alive. I started remembering moments I had buried. The time I lost my best friend in an accident. The guilt I felt when I said something I couldn't take back. The night I realized I was living for everyone, except myself. One morning, while meditating with the stone in hand, I had my first full-blown vision. I was walking through a burning forest, flames reaching the heavens, but instead of fear, I felt calm, because in the center of it all was a child, me, as I had been, crying, alone, afraid. And in that moment, I heard a voice, not in my ears, but in every cell of my being. Feel what you couldn't then, now. And I broke. I wept like I never had before, not tears of weakness, but of release. Years of unspoken agony poured out of me, like a river finally allowed to flow. You see, we're taught to escape pain, to label it, medicate it, distract from it, but no one teaches us to listen to it. And that's when it clicked, pain is not the enemy, it's the messenger. I started going deeper. Each day I sat with a new memory, a new wound, and simply felt, not judged, not analyzed, just accepted. And something miraculous happened. The more I accepted my pain, the more peace I felt. But the journey wasn't linear. Some days I wanted to quit. Some nights the visions returned, more vivid, more cryptic. One evening, I found myself standing in the middle of an abandoned monastery. Not physically. I had no idea how I got there. But in spirit. The walls breathed. The air sang. and in front of me stood a circle of figures cloaked in light and shadow. One of them stepped forward. His eyes were like the moon, cold, luminous, knowing. "You're here to remember," he said. "Remember what?" I asked. "That happiness isn't the absence of pain. It's the embrace of all things." Then, he handed me a mirror. But in it, I didn't see my face. I saw every version of me that had ever suffered. Every younger self. Every broken heart. Every scream I had silenced. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look away. I said to each of them, "I see you. And I'm not ashamed anymore." The mirror shattered, and I awoke with the deepest sense of clarity I'd ever known. That was the beginning of a new kind of life. Not one without pain, but one where pain was no longer terrifying. Because now, I could see it for what it truly was, a doorway back to wholeness. Let me ask you something. What part of yourself have you been running from? The breakup you never healed from? The parent you never forgave? The dreams you abandoned? What if I told you, they're not gone? They're waiting. Waiting for you to turn around. To stop running. To listen. Because behind every wound is a truth about who you are. And once you stop fighting it, you'll discover a version of happiness you never thought possible. Not the kind that depends on everything going right, but the kind that rises even when everything falls apart. But don't take my word for it. The next part of this journey will show you something I never thought I'd reveal. Something so profound, so unexplainable, that even now, I question whether I imagined it. But it happened. And it changed everything. So if you think this story has already reached its peak, trust me, we're just getting started. The day I died without dying, and met the part of me I feared most. There's something strange that happens when you begin to accept your pain. Reality starts bending. Not in a sci-fi kind of way. I'm talking about the laws of your inner world. Time, space, even logic, beginning to twist and crack open like a cocoon that can't contain you anymore. One night, after weeks of deep spiritual work, I decided to go on a silent retreat. No phone. No food. Just me, a cabin, and the forest. I wasn't trying to escape. I was trying to listen. The first day was peaceful. The second was unbearable. My mind screamed for noise. My body ached for distraction. But by day 3, something else took over. I sat under a tree, closed my eyes, and whispered, "Show me what I'm still afraid to feel." The wind stopped. Birds stopped. It was like the whole forest held its breath. Then came the cold. Not outside. Inside. It crawled through my spine like a whisper of death. Suddenly, I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was floating in blackness. Nothing around me but echoes. I couldn't tell if I was awake or dreaming, alive or dead. But I knew I had crossed into something sacred. A voice, this time, unmistakably external, echoed all around me, "If you wish to be free, you must meet the part of you you've always avoided." And then, there he was. A version of me. Not older, not younger, just darker. He looked exactly like me, but his eyes burned with rage and sorrow. He stepped forward and said, "You've spent your whole life pretending I didn't exist. I'm your fear. I'm your shame. I'm your guilt. I'm what you abandoned when you decided you had to be the good one." And then, with terrifying honesty, he asked, "Why do you hate me?" I couldn't answer. Because the truth was, I did. I hated the part of me that had made mistakes, that had hurt people, that had felt weak, needy, insecure. But as he looked at me, I realized, he didn't want to hurt me. He wanted to be held. And for the first time, I opened my arms, and embraced the part of me I had feared most. We didn't merge. We didn't disappear. We coexisted. That's when the real revelation hit me. Healing doesn't mean erasing the past. It means loving the parts of yourself that were never loved before. In that moment, the darkness around us started glowing, not with sunlight, but with something deeper, an inner illumination. And the voice returned, "Now you know the truth. Real happiness doesn't come from fixing yourself. It comes from fully being yourself. Every part." I woke up in the forest, tears soaking my face, heart pounding. But I had never felt more alive. You see, when we try to escape our shadow, we lose our light. Every time we deny our pain, we cut off access to our power. You want to be unshakably happy? Then embrace the parts of you that are hardest to love. Because they are the keys. The parts you wish you could delete, that's where your deepest wisdom is buried. Let me tell you about another moment, one that happened just a few weeks later. I was walking through a city I didn't know, lost in thought, when I came across an alley where an old woman was sitting. She looked up at me like she'd been waiting. She had no teeth, one eye, wrinkled skin like the bark of a 500-year-old tree. She said, "You've done well, but there's one more thing." I didn't know what she meant, but she handed me something small, wrapped in cloth. Inside was a second stone, identical spiral symbol, but this one was warm. And then she whispered, "You've accepted your pain. Now learn to use it." That night, I sat with both stones. I placed one in each hand. Cold, warm, darkness, light. And I realized, they were never separate. The pain I felt all my life was the other side of my joy. They were twins, mirrors. And suddenly, I understood why nothing had ever worked until now. Why chasing success didn't fix the emptiness. Why love from others didn't fill the void. Because I had been trying to feel happy, while rejecting half of myself. But now, something wild was happening. My memories began to shift. Not the events, but the emotions. I saw my past again, but this time through eyes of compassion. That breakup? It wasn't proof I was unworthy. It was a teacher showing me I didn't love myself yet. That failure? It wasn't punishment. It was redirection, a doorway in disguise. That grief? It wasn't the end. It was an invitation to love deeper. And you? Yes. You watching this right now, have the same power. You don't need to escape your pain. You need to ask it, "What are you here to teach me?" Let me ask you a terrifying but beautiful question. What would happen if you stopped resisting what hurts? What if you let it in? Would it destroy you? Or would it transform you? Because here's the truth most people never hear. You don't become happy by avoiding sadness. You become happy by making peace with it. True happiness isn't the high of a perfect moment. It's the grounded joy that says, even when I hurt, I'm still whole. And once you reach that, no one can take it from you. Not money, not loss, not chaos. Because it's yours, rooted in truth. Before we move into the final part of this journey, I want to give you a practice. Something real, something powerful. Tonight, when you're alone, sit in silence and ask yourself, what part of me have I locked away because it was too painful to face? Then listen. Don't analyze. Don't judge. Just listen. And if you feel something rise in your chest, tears, anger, regret, don't push it away. Let it speak. Because that voice, that pain, that shadow, is you. And when you love it, you become unstoppable. But the story doesn't end here. Because something happened next that even I can't explain. Something that defied everything I thought I knew about time, memory, and the soul. It started with a whisper, and ended with a vision of the future that might belong to all of us. The vision that showed me the secret future of humanity's inner awakening. It happened 3 nights after I held the 2 stones in silence and let my entire soul unravel. I wasn't trying to meditate. I wasn't seeking visions or chasing enlightenment. I was just still. That's when it began. Not a dream, not a hallucination, but something else. An experience that felt more real than this world ever has. I found myself in a vast desert made of glass. The sky above shimmered like liquid silver, and on the horizon, something called me forward. As I walked, I saw people, millions of them, each locked in a glass cube. Some were screaming, others were laughing, but none of them could see anyone else. They were trapped in themselves. And then I understood, these weren't just people. They were all versions of me. Every belief I ever held, every role I'd played, every mask I'd worn to survive. Each one isolated in their own bubble of pain, identity, or pride. And I heard the same voice again, soft, but absolute. This is humanity's sickness, not war, not greed, separation, from the self, from the soul, from each other. I asked, how do we escape? The voice replied, you don't escape, you accept, you merge, you love. And with those words, the cubes began to melt. Each time I looked at a trapped version of myself with compassion instead of shame, the glass dissolved. We reunited. The angry teenager who never felt heard. The guilt-ridden lover who sabotaged good things. The prideful achiever who only felt worthy when winning. One by one, I embraced them, and as I did, I became lighter, brighter, whole. Then, everything disappeared. I stood in a void. And a being stood before me. Or rather, a light, vast, warm, not God as we often picture, but something beyond naming, beyond gender, beyond dogma. It said, you are not broken, you are becoming. And then, it showed me a vision. Not of my future, but of ours. I saw people all over the world, waking up. Not spiritually posturing, not chasing trends, but truly waking up from the dream of separation. I saw men crying and being honored for it. I saw women roaring with power and being safe in it. I saw children taught how to feel, not just how to pass tests. I saw entire cities built around beauty, silence, community, and healing. But most of all, I saw this. People no longer hiding their pain. People standing in public squares, not to protest, but to confess their wounds, their truths, their humanity. And the crowd didn't shame them. The crowd clapped. Because we had remembered what we forgot. Pain is not weakness. Pain is the birthplace of connection. And in that future, we didn't just tolerate our pain. We used it as fuel, as art, as prayer, as love. The being of light said to me, this is possible, But only if enough of you choose to feel, to stop running, to accept what hurts. And then I woke up. Tears soaked my pillow again. But this time, they were sacred. Since that night, I haven't been the same. I no longer chase happiness like a finish line. I live in it. Even when I am grieving, I'm not disconnected from joy, because I've realized happiness isn't the absence of hurt. It's the presence of truth. And truth includes everything. You. Right now. Wherever you're sitting. You don't need to be anyone else. You don't need to become some perfect version of yourself to deserve peace. You only need to be honest. Let me ask you one final question. The deepest one I know. What if the pain you carry is actually your gift? What if the heartbreak that nearly broke you is the key to healing others? What if the rejection you felt is the womb where your confidence will be born? You've been told that life is about rising above your pain. But I'm here to tell you the opposite. True happiness comes from descending into it. Facing it. Holding it. Loving it. That's where the transformation happens. That's when the soul ignites. And that's when life stops being something you endure, and becomes something you celebrate. So here's what I want you to do next. Don't just like this video. Don't just comment. Go into your life, and feel. Write that letter you've avoided. Cry the tears you've held back. Say I forgive you, even if the person is no longer here. Sit with your younger self and tell them, you did the best you could, and I love you. Because when you do that, you're not just healing yourself. You're healing the world. This is the kind of video most people avoid. Because it's real. It's raw. It asks you to stop numbing and start awakening. But if you made it to this point, you're not like most people. You're ready. You've always been ready. You just forgot. Let this video be the reminder you needed. That your hurt doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And your humanity, fully accepted, fully embraced, is your superpower. So don't wait for life to stop hurting before you decide to live. Live through the hurt. Laugh while healing. Love while trembling. Rise, with tears in your eyes and fire in your soul. Because that, right there, is the most powerful way to finally be truly happy. And if no one has told you this before, let me be the first. I see you. I honor your pain. And I believe in your joy. Go now, and become the most whole version of yourself. Not by avoiding what hurts, but by accepting it completely. Thank you for walking this path with me. We'll meet again, somewhere in the silence, where healing begins.